Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברחים גם יחד. 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 How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברחים גם יחד. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב
Testing, testing, testing. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Good evening. We're so glad to have you all. Welcome to Temple Israel, everyone who's here gathered in our sanctuary, and welcome to those of you who are joining us via live stream. I'm Rabbi Michael Friedman, and we had planned this event with ADL headed by Stacey Sobel a number of weeks ago. Since then, a lot has happened. We've had, of course, the university presidents on Capitol Hill, and we've had incidents in our own local community that have come to light. So this gathering and this conversation and this program could not come at a more important time. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to Stacey and Jennifer Rojan-Wallace, who's downstairs, another ADL staff member. Thank you to all of our Temple Israel staff who is helping to make this evening happen, including our Executive Director, Brian Bierman, and our Associate Rabbi and Director of Education, Rabbi Ilana Nematoff-Bressler, and Sean and Eric, who manage the live stream for everything that we do here, and Tim and Tony and our security team. And thank you to the Westport Police Department as well for always keeping us safe. So a word about the structure of this evening's program. We're going to have a wonderful presentation from Stacey that you see in front of you. And then I'll add just a few comments of my own, and then we'll have a Q&A. You each have received a little note card and a pencil, or you have a pen of your own. This is how we handle all large events at Temple Israel, where we do a Q&A, is that you'll be able to have a chance to submit a question, and then the ADL staff and Temple Israel staff will sort through them and ask the questions that we think are most prominent and most important to be answered this evening. And we do that so that everybody has an equal opportunity to ask a question, rather than those who most strenuously raise their hands or their voices getting to ask a question, because sometimes even those of us who are a little bit more reserved have the best question in the room. And so with that, I invite Stacey Sobel, who was president of Temple Israel for 4 years, to our bima.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Rabbi. It is a joy to be here today at my home congregation. So 34 years ago, when I walked through the front door of this temple that was unlocked and without a metal detector, I could never have imagined being here. Serving as the Connecticut Regional Director for ADL is truly the honor of a lifetime. And in many ways, I have Temple Israel to thank over the years. So all of you who are congregants here, just think of all you're going to learn being a member here. I've learned about Judaism, leadership, the importance of community, and advocacy right here, so thank you. So tonight, we have a lot to discuss. I know we are all experiencing a rise in anti-Semitism and hate, unlike anything we have witnessed during our lifetime. It is disturbing, it is overwhelming, and it is scary. We are afraid for our children, and we feel the trauma of generations before us. We know our history. So tonight, we will share with you data about the increase in anti-Semitism and hate, but we will also share with you what is being done and what each of us can do, even in those one-on-one moments with friends and family. Jonathan Greenblatt, ADL CEO, always reminds us that fighting anti-Semitism and hate requires a whole of society approach, so we each play an important role. Each morning, we at ADL wake up with the goal of fighting hate, and some days and sometimes are just harder than others. But know this, ADL, along with many other organizations, our federations, our synagogues, our Hillels, our allies, are working harder than ever at the highest, most professional levels to fight back. At ADL, we are using every tool: social media, traditional media, education, investigation, strong relationships with law enforcement, government, elected officials, advocacy, and opportunities like tonight to unite in our work to face this challenge. I promise you, none of us are alone. A couple of points before I begin the presentation. First, in the wake of a well-publicized anti-Semitic incident in the Westport schools, we can all agree that anti-Semitism has no place in our schools and that every student needs to feel safe and secure in their school community. Yet the reality is that anti-Semitism does occur and can occur anywhere. And when it occurs, it's our obligation to name it and address it, including by educating our community, our students, and our educators with tools and strategies to understand what it is and confront it when we see it. We're obligated to ensure that those impacted and our community as a whole can heal in its aftermath. While we will not be addressing the specifics of the incident tonight, ADL has been in touch with both the family and the school. We affirm our commitment to ensure that our schools and the community have the resources, support, and knowledge to address anti-Semitism and all forms of bias swiftly and effectively and provide a safe learning environment so each student can thrive as their whole selves. Second, we know that historically anti-Semitism cycles up and down. Unlike any other type of hate, which tends to decrease slowly over time, anti-Semitism historically is stubborn, and it peaks and valleys as it has over the past 2,000 years. But one fact is constant: Jews and all marginalized communities are safest, always safest, in democracies. Anti-Semitism is often called the canary in the coal mine because it is a warning that hate is on the increase in a society. An increase in anti-Semitism and hate also represents the fraying of the edges of democracy. So we have work to do. We have to be vigilant to protect our democracy. It is a very important way we can all fight hate and anti-Semitism. So with that, I will start the presentation. So ADL is the Anti-Defamation League. We were founded in 1913. For those of you who saw the show Parade, it was around the time of the Leo Frank trial, and we were founded in response to that anti-Semitism. We're the leading anti-hate organization in the world. We're nonpartisan, we're nonprofit, and we have a timeless integrated mission to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and secure justice and fair treatment for all. And that mission is really important because in 1913, it was very forward-thinking, very hard to accomplish, and it was really only in the 60s, during the civil rights era, that ADL was really able to integrate both parts of the mission. But all forms of hate are equally serious and damaging, so we really need to address all forms. ADL works to protect democracy and ensure a just and inclusive society, and our goal is a world in which no group or individual suffers from bias, discrimination, or hate. We have three main ways we do our work, which is investigation, advocacy, and education, and you will see all that in the slides tonight. We have 25 regional offices around the U.S., and that map shows you where they are, and we are very lucky in Connecticut that we have our very own office. And it's right here in the neighborhood in Bridgeport, so come and visit us anytime. So here's what anti-Semitism looked like in Greenwich in 1961. So Ms. Olive Braden was charged with discrimination against Jews. Under discussion was a memorandum addressed to the Braden sales staff beginning, when anyone telephones us in answer to an ad in any newspaper and their name is or appears to be Jewish, do not meet them anywhere. If it happens on a Sunday, tell them we do not show on Sunday, take the phone number and throw it away. So how many people remember when anti-Semitism felt like that? We've come a long way. It's manifesting itself differently today. Here we are, December 2023. A Connecticut resident is shopping in a store, and asks the salesperson for the price of an item. The salesperson asks, "Are you Jewish?" The man responds, "Yes." The salesperson responds, "Get the F out of my store, you effing Jew." That's today. So who are the Jewish people? It's important for us to remember we are more than a religion. We are a people with a religion, a language, a homeland. We're not just one race, we're multiracial, and our identity for many of us is tied to an ancestral homeland. And as proof of it, when I sent my DNA to 23andMe, it came back that I'm Jewish. I don't think any other religion has that in their DNA. So we are a people. So this is also just some background. The worldwide Jewish population is 14.7 million people, which is 0.2% of the world population. We are 2% of the US population. At the bottom of the slide, you can see Connecticut has 118,000 Jews, which makes us 3% of the state population. But if you look at the list, the Jewish population of Connecticut is larger than all but 7 countries in the world. There are only 7 countries in the world that have more Jewish people than the state of Connecticut. So look at the numbers at the top, Israel and US, the vast majority of Jewish people live here. So when we hear at rallies, from the river to the sea, the cries from river to the sea, we are talking about the decimation of half of the Jewish population of the world. That's why that slogan is so disturbing. So every couple of years, ADL does a survey about anti-Semitic stereotypes. They have 11 that they test. I hate doing this part of the program. I hate giving voice to them, but I'm going to read them aloud because as I do, I want us to think about how many of them we've heard, or we've heard joking, or we've maybe said in a joke. So just think as I read them. Jews are more loyal to Israel than to the US. Jews have too much power in the business world. Jews have too much power in international financial markets. Jews think they are better than other people. Jews don't care about what happens to anyone but their own kind. People hate Jews because the way Jews behave. Jews still talk too much about the Holocaust. Jews have too much control over global affairs. Jews have too much control over the US government. Jews have too much control over global media. Jews are responsible for the most of the world's wars. So when this survey was done in 2022, 26% of the world, or it's 2 billion people, believed in at least one of these Jewish stereotypes. And 66 million Americans, 20% of our country, believed in 6 or more of these Jewish stereotypes. So ADL does an audit of anti-Semitic incidents every year. We've been doing it every year since 1963. We have a center at ADL called the Center on Extremism, and every incident that's reported to ADL, self-reported to ADL, and every incident that we keep track of in the media, we vet and keep track of. The data is very clean, and we take it very seriously. So last year, we were really, really upset when the data came in that showed in 1 year, 2021 to 2022, a 36% increase in anti-Semitic incidents. And if you look at the trend over 10 years, we're showing a 500% increase in anti-Semitic incidents in 10 years. That's before October 7th. Now, what's happened since? Since October 7th, ADL has recorded over 2,000 anti-Semitic incidents. That is more than a 337% increase over the same time period in 2022. Now, ADL's data has borne this out repeatedly. Anytime there's an event in the world that impacts the Jewish population, anti-Semitism here spikes. But this one is really sustained over a period now of 2 months. So this is how we break down anti-Semitic incidents. You can see the bar graph on the right. It's harassment, vandalism, assault. The important data is that in the last 2 months, there have been 749 incidents of verbal or written harassment, 337 incidents of vandalism, and 40 incidents of physical assault. So just in the last 2 months, Jews in America have experienced on average nearly 34 anti-Semitic incidents per day. This is a map that you can find on ADL's website. It's updated every so often. It shows all kinds of data about where these events are happening. You could see all the dots and really the big cluster in the east. But ADL has tracked 905 rallies in the last 2 months that include anti-Semitic rhetoric, expressions of support for terrorism against Israel, and/or anti-Zionism. So just to make it easier for people to understand, we're very clear about this, that ADL believes that Israel can and should be criticized like any other country, but sometimes what's couched as criticism crosses the line into anti-Semitism, and when it does, it should be called out. So this slide is examples of what's been going on around the country. Targeting, harassing, demonizing, or attacking some members of a group for the actions of other members of a group is textbook example of bigotry and is unacceptable. Even if you believe the Israeli government is what Israel is doing is wrong, or you have strong opinions about the Middle East, holding individual Jews accountable for that, terrorizing Jewish businesses, and silencing Jewish students is still anti-Semitism. And just like the shooting of 3 students in Vermont was anti-Palestinian bigotry and is inexcusable regardless of what Hamas did. So we here in Connecticut respond to anti-Semitic incidents. So for all of you who, any kind of hate or anti-Semitic incidents that you experience, you go on the ADL website, you report it to us. So in Connecticut last year, we experienced a 100% increase in anti-Semitic incidents. We don't know what the data will be for this year yet. It'll come out in the spring, but we'll keep you posted on that. And this is what some of the Jew hatred in Connecticut looks like. We have the banner with Kanye is right about the Jews. We have swastikas. We have Nazi paraphernalia for sale. That brick wall with the swastika and the number 1488. So 1488 is a combination of 2 popular white supremacist symbols. The first symbol, 14, it's shorthand for 14 words, or the slogan, quote, "We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children." The second, 88, stands for Heil Hitler, H being the 8th letter of the alphabet. So together, those numbers form a general endorsement of white supremacy and beliefs. And I'll explain a little bit more about white supremacy as we go a little further. But if you were ever driving around Connecticut and you saw a symbol like this and you didn't know what it means, ADL has a database of symbols on our website. Law enforcement calls us constantly. They send us pictures. What does this mean? We're happy to help you figure out and interpret what you're seeing. So, anti-Semitism in the school. This data is from the 2023 audit. Nationwide, there were 494 anti-Semitic incidents reported in non-Jewish K-12 schools, which represented a 49% increase in 1 year. And in Connecticut, 1/3 of all the anti-Semitic activity reported to us took place in K-12 schools. In 2022, there were 218 incidents of anti-Semitic activity reported at 130 colleges. That represented a 41% increase. And 69 of those incidents were perpetrated by individuals associated with anti-Zionist activities, most commonly the group Students for Justice in Palestine and its affiliates. So ADL's Center on Anti-Semitism Research did a study of campus climate culture before and after the Hamas terrorist attack. So what you see on the right is a screenshot from the University of Delaware. Somebody infiltrated a Jewish student WhatsApp group of about 80 students, and they posted individual photos of each member with a target doxing them with disclosure of personal information, plus a post that seems to say in Arabic that the person should be a target for Hamas and should not be able to sleep at night. So doxing is actually a hate crime in the state of Connecticut. It's not a hate crime in every state. In 2021, ADL worked with the Connecticut legislature to pass a law to make doxing and swatting a hate crime. So in Connecticut, this would have been punishable under hate crime laws. Doxing is when you post someone's personal information, their address, their location, their name, their family members, with the intent to cause them harm. It happens a lot. It's happening a lot right now. And I'll explain what swatting is when we get to a couple more slides down. So I'm going to show you some of this data. Jewish students are experiencing a wave of anti-Semitism unlike anything we have seen before. Since October 7th, 400 anti-Semitic incidents have been reported on college campuses compared to 33 during the same period in 2022. So just as a reminder from the previous slide, there were 498 anti-Semitic incidents in the whole year in college campuses last year. We're already at 400 in 2 months. And 10 years ago, there were only 24 reported anti-Semitic incidents on college campuses. It's a dramatic increase. The new study found that 73% of Jewish college students and 46% of non-Jewish college students have experienced or witnessed anti-Semitism since the start of this school year. Prior to October 7th, 67% of Jewish students said they felt physically safe on campus, but after October 7th, only 46% say they feel physically safe. So you've all seen the pictures of what's going on in college campuses. This is just a small cluster of pictures of what's going on here in Connecticut. The symbol on the upper right, the Yale law students just formed a Students for Justice in Palestine chapter. So for everyone to know, that's called the Smiling Watermelon, and that is a sign of solidarity with Palestinians. So we've had, I don't know if the person's here tonight, but somebody reported to us that the Israeli flag that she had on her front, in the front of her house, was vandalized with stickers of watermelon, and she wasn't sure what that meant. Well, that's what it means, solidarity with Palestinians. So I'll tell you a little story about a college student that went to college in Connecticut. He was a senior last year, and he came back from his class, and on his dorm door, there were 3 swastikas. And they were carved in. They weren't just written, they were like carved. So somebody really had to take some time. And he got back from class and he was horrified. You can imagine how he felt. He was scared. He was intimidated. He looked around the hall. He noticed there were no swastikas, there was no graffiti anywhere else. So it dawned on him he was targeted. He was really, really upset. He took his key and he made the swastikas look like a tic-tac-toe board. He didn't want anyone to know that he was targeted. So thankfully, he was so upset that he was willing to call his parents. And his dad said, "You need to report this to the school." And he's like, "I'm not reporting this to school. I don't want to talk to them about this." And he said, "And I think you really should report this to ADL too." And the son's like, "It's my senior year. I'm not ruining it. I'm not telling anybody." And the dad's like, "You really need to speak up about this." Well, he filed an incident report with ADL. He gave us the wrong phone number and the wrong email address. He really did not want to talk to us. And this story is actually true, that I'm telling you. And he did go to campus safety to report the incident. And when campus safety asked him for a photo of the swastikas, he hadn't taken it. And he had sort of defaced it before he took a picture. So lesson to anybody here, when you see a hate symbol, take a picture of it. Don't alter it. Leave it alone. It was a very important investigative tool that was actually destroyed. So when campus police started questioning him, he somehow revealed to them that 1 year before this incident, he had been with his fraternity brothers at a party, and one of his fraternity brothers had said to him, "You're a dirty effing Jew, and my grandparents were Nazis and they should have finished the job." He got so upset that they got into a fist fight. So he didn't report that at the time because he was upset that there was a fist fight. It was his fraternity brother. He didn't want his fraternity kicked off campus. So we now have 2 incidents that happened to the same young man at the same school. And both of those incidents qualify as hate crimes. Now, there's a difference between a hate incident and a hate crime. A hate incident is a statement of bias or prejudice, but when it's accompanied by a violation of law, like vandalism or assault, then it becomes a hate crime, which law enforcement can actually, arrest you, and there's a penalty, and it's much more serious. So when I had spoken to the young man, I said this needs to be reported to the local police because this is actually a hate crime. And the school started to do an investigation, which was the school's way of handling acts of bias. And of course, what did their investigation show? There was no security camera on the door. They couldn't see who carved the swastikas. The records that they had of the swipe cards to show who was going in and out of the building disappeared. The people they tried to interview about the fist fight had graduated or they couldn't remember it. So none of it was substantiated. So this is a message to the young people who are here, the adults who are here. Please report incidents when they happen. Please substantiate them. Please keep track of them. And the young man did finish his year. He graduated, but I will say that his college experience was tainted from this. It was an opportunity for ADL to work with the administration. We actually worked with them to improve their response, and we also went and did a program there on anti-Semitism for the students and the faculty, so that was a good opportunity. But this young man paid a price that was really unfair to him. So these are some of the anti-Semitic incidents that we've seen around the state of Connecticut. We've had over 50 bomb scares called into JCCs and synagogues, and many swatting incidents. Now, over the weekend, this ADL phone of mine was blowing up. We have an internal ADL channel. Saturday, Sunday, bing, 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 bing. Why? 450 false bomb threats were received at Jewish institutions in over 20 states around this country, including 16 here in Connecticut. This is serious. This is dangerous. It is serious. None were substantiated, but the amount of time and the amount of effort that law enforcement has to invest in responding to these and the amount of fear it instills in the community is really disproportionate to the efforts of whoever is doing this. So swatting, which I mentioned in this statement, swatting is also the other act that's now a hate crime in Connecticut. It is the deliberate and malicious act of reporting a false crime or an emergency to evoke an aggressive response from law enforcement, which often includes dispatching a SWAT team to a target's location. So somebody would call into a somebody would be home watching a synagogue's live stream of their services. And just for fun, they would call into a suicide hotline and say, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to shoot up Temple Shalom, and I'm here now, and already somebody's dead, or something crazy like this. And just for the joy of watching the SWAT team come into the sanctuary and watching it on live stream. So there was a spate of this all summer, all over the country. For months and months, ADL worked on this. Our analysts at the Center on Extremism who work 24/7, and they're like in the dark web searching places where law enforcement and the FBI cannot go because they wouldn't have probable cause, but we can go because we're not law enforcement. We tracked the swatting ring as they moved through social media platforms. We documented the group's activities, their ideology, their methodology, and their plans. It got to the point where I would get a warning and say, you have 7 minutes to warn Temple X that they're going to be swatted. Call them now. And ADL's regional directors all over the country were doing this for weeks. So in good news, last week a juvenile was arrested for their role in this wave of swatting events. Yep. And I am very proud to say the FBI mentioned in their press release that ADL was considerably important in assisting in the ongoing investigation. So we were very grateful that that happened. So many different reports of swastikas and white supremacist symbols all over the state of Connecticut. We've had students posting with photos of their hands holding a gun on Snapchat directed at a Jewish student with the headline, "Kill the Jews." We've had rocks thrown at worshipers. We've had Zoom bombings. We've had swastikas in a lot of schools. We've had a passing driver yelling F Jews as parents are picking up their children at a preschool. We've had anti-Semitic rhetoric shared by politicians, including a comparison of COVID vaccine requirements to Nazism. We've had a second grade student, more than one, telling another student that they want to finish what Hitler started. And we've had another town, a middle school student, experience an escalation of Holocaust jokes, death threats, and harassment following Kanye West tweets. Literally, he would walk into the lunchroom and the kids would just play Kanye West music because they knew the message they were getting across. So I'm going to move on to white supremacy because this is another form of hatred toward many kinds of people, including Jewish people. So white supremacy is a term that we use to characterize various belief systems that whites should dominate over people of all other backgrounds. Whites should live by themselves in a whites-only society, and white people have a culture that is superior to other cultures, and that white people are genetically superior to other people. And this flyer is a flyer that was thrown around in Stamford, and you can see the white supremacists are letting you know that in the last 10 years, Connecticut has become 13.6% less white, and asking the question, where is this going? So you remember Charlottesville in 2017, the chants, the Jews will not replace us, the Jews will not replace us. What does that mean? They're referring to the Great Replacement Theory that accuses Jews, global elites, democratic leaders, and others of using democratic institutions and processes to eliminate white Christian Americans. You have heard this referred to on TV. You've read about this. We have seen a surge in white supremacist propaganda here in Connecticut. Last year, ADL recorded a 38% increase nationwide, but we in Connecticut experienced a 115% increase. And although Connecticut is the 29th most populous state, we were number 9 in the country for white supremacist incidents and number 11 in the country for anti-Semitic incidents. So these are the groups that have been the most active in Connecticut. The top one is NSC 131. It's the New England Nationalist Socialist Club. Their members consider themselves soldiers fighting a war against a hostile Jewish-controlled system that is deliberately plotting the extinction of the white race. The Goyim Defense League, they espouse vitriolic anti-Semitism, white supremacist themes via the internet, through propaganda distributions and in street actions. And White Lives Matter, that promotes a white supremacist worldview, advocating for raising white racial consciousness and the eventual formation of white ethno-states. This group is the Patriot Front. They're actually the busiest one nationwide. They're busy here in Connecticut too, but not as busy as some of the other groups. But these are stickers that the Patriot Front put up in New London, and you can see their stickers are kind of patriotic. Like, you might not know if you looked at it really what it's about. And we found, like, around July 4th, they put up a lot of stuff to try to appeal to people's patriotism. But don't be confused. They are a white supremacist group whose members maintain that their ancestors conquered America and bequeathed it to them. They justify their ideology of hate under the guise of preserving the ethnic, cultural origins of their members' European ancestors, and they spread their hateful propaganda all over the place. So here's what some of it looks like that some of your friends and neighbors have received in Connecticut. Anybody here receive any white supremacist propaganda on their front lawn? Okay, well, it's been all over. I'm going to show you a map in a minute. But the white supremacists are very clever. They know how to distribute their propaganda right up to the line of being illegal. So they take these little baggies, they put the propaganda in the baggie, that's oatmeal, but they use oatmeal or rocks or beans or rice to weigh it down. They want to make sure that their note doesn't fly away, and they want to make sure that their note isn't wet. They want you to see it. So they drive through your neighborhood at night and they throw these out of their car windows. So they're not trespassing. It's maybe littering, but it's a very hard, very, very difficult to prosecute them. They go right up to the line of the First Amendment. So what does the NSC say in their flyer? The National Socialist Club is a pro-white, street-oriented fraternity dedicated to raising authentic resistance to the enemies of our people in the New England area. This takes the form of networking, training, activism, outreach, and above all, action. No matter how you got here, if you're a man of European descent in the New England area that wishes to see a better future for your people, contact us to get to work. So how do you think people feel when they wake up and they find this on their front lawn? When I talk to them, they say, was it one of my neighbors that did this? Am I being targeted? Do I know the person that did this? Will this appeal to my neighbors? Will they be recruited to this? So all it takes is one person getting up off the couch to take action to create fear and have a devastating impact on a community. Their techniques are very effective for them. This is some more of what their paraphernalia looks like. That flyer on the right is the Goyim Defense League, and this one was really interesting because ADL Center on Extremism sent us a video that they found on the dark web. There's a man wearing a GoPro camera on his head, and he says, I'm here in Waterbury, Connecticut, and I am putting these flyers on cars, under the windshields, on car windows, outside the courthouse and outside the coffee shop. And as he's talking on Goyim TV, the thermometer's going up and up and up because people are donating money. They use this as a technique to raise money. Every action that they take, they live stream. They've raised millions of dollars over the last 4 years, and they do these really clever things. They say, like, tune in now. If you help us raise $100, we'll be able to do 2 more actions. They're very, very persistent. And obviously, the GDL is a riff off of ADL, and they are, very aggressive. So this is examples of what was spread in Greenwich, Connecticut by the GDL. And on the right, you could see the baggies. The young woman holding them woke up early, and she's a runner, and she went through the neighborhood and picked them up. She didn't want her neighbors to be distressed. But you could see their flyers, like I said, on the internal channel at ADL, we have a way for all of us to share the flyers. The flyers all over the country look similar. They post templates so that you can copy them and use them in your neighborhood. They make it really easy to take action. And if you're a member of the group, you have a responsibility to take a certain amount of actions. It's like a membership requirement. So last year, we had 21 Connecticut towns report to us that they had white supremacist flyers, and we were appalled at that last year. To us, that was a 20-fold increase. In 4 years, it was 1 in every 10 Connecticut towns. You can see there I am at a press conference in Hartford with Senator Murphy and Senator Blumenthal. This was like horrible news. We were so concerned. So guess what? September this year, we were already up to 51 incidents, and the dots on the map show you where the incidents are all over the state of Connecticut. The smaller dots are like 1 or 2 incidents. The bigger dots are like 3 or 4. So here we have 927, and here we have today. We're now at 72 incidents. So let's just go back and forth. You see the difference in the size? The last 2 months since the Hamas attack, an increase in white supremacists. We're now at the point where 1 in every 4 towns has been impacted. So this is just data to show you the hate incidents that are reported to ADL Connecticut. It doesn't break them down by what kind of hate. It's just what we in our office respond to. So in 2019, we responded to 99 hate incidents. Sounded terrible. Last year, we responded to 360 hate incidents. That was more than twice as many as the previous year. We were so concerned. So far this year, we have responded to 542 incidents. That is a 450% increase in 5 years. And since October 7th, we have responded to over 231 hate incidents as compared to 67 over the same time period last year. We're very busy. So this is ADL's Pyramid of Hate. It's one of our teaching tools that we use. The bottom of the pyramid are biased attitudes. And as we go up the pyramid, the incidents become more serious. So we have acts of bias next, systemic discrimination, bias-motivated violence, and genocide. Now, what's important about this pyramid is that we like to say that we need to challenge biased attitudes at the bottom of this pyramid before they escalate, so we can interrupt the escalation of violence. And when our trainers go out and work with students, they turn the pyramid on its side and they explain how it's a slippery slope from the bottom to the top. So one of the other teaching techniques we use at ADL is intent versus impact. So when the second grader said to the kid in his class, you know, the Nazis should have finished the job, does a second grader know what he or she is saying? We don't know, but the impact on the student is horrific. So when we speak to schools, when we speak to workplaces, when we speak to universities about how it feels to be the target of hate, we talk about the impact on the target. We try not to focus on the intent of the individual perpetrator, but focus on the intent. So what can we do? There is a lot being done. So I'm going to start off with some of the things that ADL is doing and some of the tools you'll have from ADL, and then we'll go into some of the things specifically that we can do. So here's one on countering campus anti-Semitism. ADL has 10 key commitments that universities can make in the wake of the Hamas-Israel war. We've been sending this out to schools, but I have to say, much more important for parents, students, alumni to send it to their schools, has a bigger impact. On October 25th, in response to the increase of anti-Semitic incidents, ADL and the Brandeis Center sent letters to the presidents of nearly 200 colleges and universities with an urgent request that they investigate the activities of their campus Students for Justice in Palestine chapters, and you heard this discussed at the hearings before Congress. So just so everyone knows, SJP is a network of student groups across the U.S. which disseminate anti-Israel propaganda, often laced with inflammatory and combative rhetoric. And ADL's statement was, if universities do not check the activities of SJP, they may be violating their Jewish students' legal rights to be free of harassment and discrimination on campus. ADL has established something called CALL, C-A-L-L, which is the Campus Anti-Semitism Legal Line, which is free legal protection helpline for students who have experienced anti-Semitism on college campuses. There's 150 lawyers pro bono at 4 different firms. In the last 5 weeks or 6 weeks since it was kicked off, they've had 325 intakes with 175 cases that have moved to secondary review with a law firm. We don't know how many will actually result in litigation, but this is the start. ADL's also announced a 10-7 project, which is led by ADL, AJC, federations, APAC, and the Conference of Presidents, and this is a bipartisan effort to focus on fact-based coverage of the Israel-Hamas war with aggressive, rapid response and a media campaign dedicated to reminding policyholders and the broader American public about the hostages. ADL has also formed the J7, which is the Large Communities Task Force Against Anti-Semitism, and ADL and the Conference of Presidents of major American Jewish organizations are representing U.S. This group is meeting weekly. Jonathan Greenblatt is in Paris as we speak with this group. As you've probably seen in the news, as much as anti-Semitism is on the rise here in the U.S., it's really dramatic all over Europe, all over the world, and so this group is focusing on international affairs. This is a really important document. This is the U.S. National Strategy to Counter Anti-Semitism. It was just released in May. This is the U.S. government's plan, strategic plan to counter anti-Semitism. If you want to read something that's going to make you feel hopeful and grateful to live in the U.S., read this document. And when people say to me, does it feel like Germany in the 20s and the 30s? The answer is no, because we have a government that supports this strategy to counter anti-Semitism. It is incredibly important. Thank your legislators who supported this. Thank our government for supporting this. So ADL has a guide for professional state education departments and school administrators for K to K-12 schools to counter anti-Semitism. This is something that can be provided to your K-12 schools. This is something that ADL provides when we respond to incidents in K-12 schools. Now, what can we as individuals do? Then there's a lot more that ADL does. It's a long presentation. I didn't want to fill every slide, but there's more. If you go to our website, you'll find more resources. So what can we do to fight hate? The first is report incidents to law enforcement and ADL. And remember the story I told you about the college student? Really report it and really take a picture and keep track of it. Stay informed, be educated, know our history, and learn facts. This is really important. As Jewish people, we need to know our history. We need to understand the facts. We need to make sure our young people are armed with the proper education before they go out into the world. We would not send them out into the world with a 13-year-old education about math or science. Do not send them out into the world with a 13-year-old education about their Jewish peoplehood. It is very important that they have the facts and data and confidence in who they are and what they are. Encourage our community leaders, our university leaders, and elected officials to speak out in the face of hate, just like Senator Murphy and Senator Blumenthal do all the time. They have a loud megaphone, and what they say really helps model for us the words that we can use as citizens. Be an ally and an upstander. Do not be the perpetrator of hate. Stand by. If someone is a target of hate, really try to stand by their side and stand up for them. Very important, on social media, do not amplify hate or divisiveness. We constantly get complaints about social media. We really strongly recommend you report it to the social media companies. I promise you they might not get back to you, they might not react, but it's very important that you report it. ADL has a number of reports on our website about, like a report card about which social media companies are better at monitoring hate on their website. I don't think any of them are above a C or C minus, but be aware. Use your social media and your media to amplify your voice and spread positive messages. That includes things like op-eds, letters to the editor. Build coalitions. We're 2% of the population. We cannot fight this alone. We need to have friends and allies. Encourage K-12 schools to adopt ADL's No Place for Hate program and ensure that mandated Holocaust and genocide education is provided. Connecticut is one of 20 states in the country that requires mandated Holocaust and genocide education. Very important. Not all schools are very well qualified to teach this. Even though it's mandated, the state doesn't have a curriculum to provide. We can help them. We have programs, but the schools need to be made aware of it. Encourage universities, corporations, and towns to include anti-Semitism in their DEI policies. We get, incidents of hate reported to us from people in corporate life, and the corporation doesn't know what to do with it because it doesn't say anti-Semitism in their corporate policy. Literally, that's how simple and confusing it can be. So let's get that in these policies. Advocate to work to affect legislative change. Watch for ADL action alerts. And you can join our brand new Connecticut advocacy team, which we just kicked off, which will work with ADL to help raise awareness about anti-Semitism. We'll be doing a virtual lobby day with our senators in January. And we've had some really successful accomplishments. We've helped with nonprofit security grant funding, which really helps our religious institutions, and the anti-cyber hate law. This one, vote. I'm going to say it like 3 times. Vote, vote, vote. You remember the Westport election for the Board of Education? Every election is important. Do not waste your vote. Reach out to ADL, we're here for you. And visit our website for resources. Okay, so this is a simple slide, but this is like you're at a family event and your uncle makes a statement like, oh, us Jews, we're just so, we're so wealthy, no one can touch us. Or you're at you're at the gym and somebody says something off color or tasteless, and we're like frozen. We don't know what to do. But it's important that we actually try to make small change in the world. We each can do this. So what's the first thing? Am I safe? If you're not safe, just walk away. Don't do anything. But if you feel safe and you feel comfortable, You can ask a question to somebody. Can you tell me more about that? I'm not sure if I heard you correctly. Can you help me understand how you feel? You can explain, ow, that hurt me. That impacted me, that statement. This is why it really hurt me. And then you can say something like, I'd like to share with you what that tradition really means to me or what that history really means. This is just a very, very small way, like we all throw a little pebble in the pond and the little ripples go out, you never know. So these are some of the ADL resources that are available. We have a handout at the end of the night with some QR codes so you can find these resources more easily. But there's one thing on here about gaming, and I just want to mention for the young people here. There is a lot of hate and harassment in online gaming. Not only is it occurring in the chat rooms, but it's embedded in the video in the game. So just pay attention to what your children are playing and pay attention to what they're ingesting. You might not think about that. So we have a program coming up on January 8th, which is focused on understanding anti-Jewish ideas in the progressive space. I know this is a very challenging moment for us to face this, but everyone's invited to join us. And we also have the largest conference on anti-Semitism and hate in March in New York City, and everyone is invited to help, to attend. So remember to report all hate incidents. And with that, Rabbi, questions?
First, thank you so much, Stacey, for such a comprehensive presentation. We want to get right to your questions. I am thrilled that we have a number of teens and college students here tonight. We want to especially address your questions. So if you have a question, you don't have to write your own name on it. You can just write teen or you can just write college on the top so that we know who it's coming from. Rabbi Nemitov Bressler, you can raise your hand. Who's going to collect questions. If you have a card with something written on it, just hold it up. We'll come around and grab it. And Jennifer Rojan Wallace, too. Jennifer, you're in the back there. Excellent. I know you're also going to help collect and share some of the questions with us up front here. Oh, if you did not get a card, just raise your hand. I'm sure someone will get a card. Here, wait. Oh, there we go. I got it. Anyone else? Thank you, Tim. Or you just want one? Okay. There's a few cards there. All right. Okay, Rabbi and Jennifer, do you want to start us off? What do you, oh.
She's getting a microphone, I think. No, I'm getting cards. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Jennifer.
Jennifer, Rabbi, you want to present some of the questions that you've been collecting?
Our first question is, what are the consequences of the hate crimes in K through 12 schools and how are they handled?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call them a hate crime, so let's just remember there's hate incidents and there's hate crimes. A hate crime is an incident that's accompanied by a crime, okay? So if there's a crime that happens in a school, that's handled by law enforcement in addition to the school. But hate incidents that are handled by school, there's a procedure that schools typically go through or that we recommend schools go through, and that is, the first one is to listen to the young person or the parent, perhaps, depending on who's bringing the incident. The schools are responsible for doing a complete and thorough investigation. Once the investigation is over, the schools need to take action, whether there's some sort of punishment for the students or not. And then the school should be doing some education and healing and remediation to make the problem, make everyone in the school feel safe. So that's sort of the big picture view. You have anything to add, Rabbi, to that?
I'll just take the opportunity to say that very clearly we need to be able to trust that our schools can identify incidents of anti-Semitism, have a policy that they follow, an appropriate policy in place that they follow to investigate, that when necessary consequences are involved, that our schools understand what's so important to our Jewish community, and that our schools can keep our kids safe. We need to be able to trust all of that.
And to add to what Rabbi said, which is really important, is that the schools are under strict laws that prohibit them from speaking about it, especially when minors are involved. They cannot disclose anything. So sometimes it feels unsatisfying because you don't know what's happening, but you have to have that trust, like Rabbi said, in the school system that they are executing what they're supposed to be doing.
Another question is, how do we get ADL into our schools?
That's a great question. I would say if you're interested in getting ADL into your school, reach out to us. Some of the resources are available online, but we're hoping that the members of our Connecticut advocacy team will help us reach out to districts. So if you're interested in doing that, join our advocacy team and you'll get some training around what ADL has available. And we have our signature program is called No Place for Hate. It's an umbrella program that schools adopt for an entire school year. And we currently have 28 schools in the state, and we're hoping to have that be multiple hundreds. So we really want to expand that. And we also just announced a brand new training that hasn't even started yet in Connecticut, but it will be a professional development about anti-Semitism for teachers in K through 12 schools. So that's just being kicked off.
And I know, Stacey, that ADL already is working closely with many of our local schools and districts. So maybe you can speak a
Yes,
little bit
so
about
like
that.
for example, the Westport schools are doing anti-bias training for every teacher. They might be the only district in the state doing that, but we provide that training, and the Westport school has made themselves avail of that.
So in relationship to that, we have a few teachers in the audience who are wondering how do they respond to it in their classrooms? Not necessarily what is the administration doing, but how did they personally respond to it?
So teachers, my heart goes out to you. I'm sending you a giant hug because this is such a challenging time for our educators. Post-COVID, they've really been stressed. The educational environment is really stressful. And so my heart goes out to you. You all are doing a labor of love. If you want information about how to respond, we have an entire toolkit that's a guide to responding to hate and bias in K through 12 schools. Literally, the guide has the kinds of bias or statements that are made and how you as a teacher can guide your students through it. It gives you as examples, it gives you facts, it gives you resources. So reach out to us. We're happy to provide that for you. I would also ask, if you're a teacher, to concentrate on impact. Remember that slide on intent versus impact? Focus on the impact of the target, because that's really what needs to be addressed and healed.
Another question we have is about the workplace. So how do we influence our workplaces if they don't want to hear about it, or bring anti-Semitism to a DEI task force if it's effective or not?
So we have some tools for the workplace, and it's amazing. I don't think anyone really thought too much about anti-Semitism in the workplace until more recently. But ADL is doing speaking at corporations about anti-Semitism. I've done it at a few corporations in Connecticut, but it's something that's on our radar that we need to be doing more of. So if you have a corporation that you think would be open to a conversation about this, you can reach out to ADL. The other thing we really encourage corporations to do is form employee resource groups. They often have it for all kinds of groups. Encourage one for a Jewish group. And also try to get into your DEI office and encourage inclusion of anti-Semitism, and we also have resources for that.
I'll just add that I think it's really important for us to also identify reasons for hope and light and courage. I've been sort of lifted up by some Temple Israel members who've called me and wanted to have conversations. The conversations go something like, I work for a publicly traded firm, or I work for a Fortune 500 company, and I've experienced such and such, such and such. Can we talk through how we might handle it? And so I'm really proud of our members who are, taking the message that we're all sharing with one another, not just coming from this bima, that each of us needs to individually stand up and oppose anti-Semitism in our spheres, in our social circles, in our families, as you mentioned, in our places of work. So I've been in conversation with a number of people as they navigate the various bureaucracies of all of our institutions, our schools, our corporations, et cetera, and many of them are bringing real change. So it's really inspiring.
It's really inspiring, I agree. And we've had some incidents. We had a strange incident. A doctor called us, and he's like, he works for a big healthcare company, and somebody said to him, "Oh, you really know how to play the Jewish piano?" We're like, "What does that mean? We're ADL, we never even heard this one." Well, it was an old stereotypical reference to Jews being good with money, like the cash register. So this happened in his workplace. It was an opportunity for us to reach out to the DEI office in his workplace. It gave us entree. But really what Rabbi said is the most important. You all can make the biggest difference. We can't go into these companies. Having someone who's there and making the personal connection is the best thing you could do.
How does the ADL address the anti-Semitism of BLM and their labeling of Israel as a racist apartheid state?
That is another entire program. I'm going to let Rabbi try to answer that first.
No, it's actually, for me, it's super easy. We make a clear distinction between the organization called Black Lives Matter, capital B, capital L, capital M, which, as we've noted, is anti-Zionist. We don't deal with them. The principle that Black Lives Matter, with lowercase letters, absolutely, we're all in. So we make a clear distinction between the organization and the ethical principle.
Yeah, Rabbi's right. And there were some chapters of Black Lives Matter that put out these flyers. I don't know if you saw it right after October 7th, and they used the image of the paratroopers. Those Black Lives Matter chapters were actually kicked out of the Black Lives Matter movement. They did not want to be associated with that.
We are long familiar with right-wing white supremacy anti-Semitism. How does left-wing anti-Semitism resemble and differ from this? Is there data that one is more associated with violence, and are there other important differences?
You want to do that one first? Okay. Well, look,
Expertise.
There is no doubt that anti-Semitism on the left and on the right exist. They're on the extremes of the political spectrum. I would say that from ADL's perspective, they're both equally dangerous, but one of the things that's particularly concerning is the number of young people in the progressive left who are holding positions that are worrisome. And when you look at them moving up into positions of power in our government and being able to have influence over the laws, we really are concerned that that group needs better education. So this is sort of a bigger question, but right now, I gave plenty of examples of hate on the right, and you see it every day on the left, on college campuses. We're just kind of have a fire burning. There's no easy solution to this. This is going to take a lot of work for us to address. I can't give data on which is worse and which is more harmful. All I can say is that they are a hair away from violence, all of them. A hair away, that's it. One trigger point.
Right.
Either way, it has nothing to do with right or left. It just has to do with the level of acrimony right now.
Yeah, I think when you tell the story about the college student comes back with the swastikas etched into their door, is that done by someone motivated from the right, motivated from the left? Unclear,
yeah,
does
right.
it matter,
Doesn't matter.
et cetera?
Right.
I'll just add that author Dara Horn had a fascinating piece in which she distinguished between Purim anti-Semitism and Hanukkah anti-Semitism. The two are connected, the two holidays are connected liturgically in Jewish tradition. Purim anti-Semitism is the anti-Semitism of Haman. Get rid of all the Jews. Annihilate us. Hanukkah anti-Semitism is the anti-Semitism of the Syrian Greeks. In the Hanukkah story, you know, the Jews can stay as long as they're just not so Jewish. They're as old as the Tanakh. Both of these are as old as the Tanakh, and they just have their own unique forms today.
It's not an easy answer. This question is complicated.
What steps is the ADL taking, or how is the ADL involved in educating the public about Jews' relationship to Israel, commitment to Israel, in response to what's happening in Israel right now?
Well,
and the
yeah.
anti-Jewish rhetoric.
ADL has really had to sort of surge resources to this because it is so of the moment. And we're doing it in a lot of different ways, many of which I explained. There's no one answer. We're kind of, I don't want to say experimenting, but yes, we're trying different things to see what matters. Look, we have been around fighting hate since 1913, and in the last 10 years, we've seen a 500% increase in anti-Semitism. So we need to be doing things differently, or maybe that, you know, that I talked about at the beginning, this cyclical form of anti-Semitism is just hard to defeat. It's just 2,000 years of this up and down. But, you know, we have a lot of examples of, I'm not going to go through it again, but there's a lot. ADL's doing a lot on this, and really just make yourself available. Join our webinars, join our newsletters. You can read about it. Jonathan Greenblatt's out there all the time on TV speaking about this. We're doing the best job we can, responding, correcting misinformation. There's a whole part of ADL's website with debunking some of the misinformation about Israel. We have done a really great job of lifting up the positive comments that have been made by our allies and our supporters. So at the onset of the war, all the college presidents that made great statements, they were on ADL's website. We thank them, we publicly acknowledge them. We really want to uplift the positive.
Okay, thank you. Different kind of question. Many Jews have seemingly white skin. Are we white? Are we not? What box do we check?
I'm happy to take that one, because I've spoken on this exact topic from this bima a few times. I gave a sermon that concluded, you know, that really explored this issue in many ways, and concluded with the statement of "Are Jews white? Only if we forget that we're Jewish first." When I have a form that I have to check, or I'm given the opportunity to check my own identity, I always look for, well, first I look for Jewish, because that's my identity in that category. It's rarely there. So other is the one I check. That most accurately describes me of the choices I'm given. And I'm certainly well aware that we are afforded all sorts of opportunities and privileges because generally the color of our skin, my color of my skin. But one of the things that I've been speaking quite often with those outside the Jewish community since October 7th about is that we consider ourselves distinct from the white population of America. We have a distinct history, we have a distinct identity, we have a distinct community, and within all of that is carrying a burden, a history of discrimination. I mean, that's an easy way to put it. I mean, how about persecution and murder that we carry with us? Genocide that we carry with us every single day. We know it's like in our kishkes every single day. And on October 7th, all of those fears, all of those memories were front and center for us, and have continued to be since. And I think that's for the non-Jewish community, those outside the Jewish community who tend to view us as a religious group, this has been an eye-opening experience for many. They've told me it's been an eye-opening experience for me to explain Jewish identity in this particular way post-October 7th.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the same experience. I was at a meeting with our chief of police in Westport and our first select person, and they asked me, you know, can you explain to us how are Jewish people feeling right now? Because they were like, why are people who were sane before October 7th like so impacted right now? And many people who aren't Jewish, who really are our allies, they need some help understanding this. And once it was explained to them, they were thrilled. They wanted the understanding, and they were so grateful. But we do need to do this outreach. It's really important. And just remember that slide, Jews are not all one color. We span the spectrum. We are Jews of all different, we look different, many different, we look many different ways. So just remember that.
So how do we respond to shadowing on social media when it is biased, read anti-Israel?
Try not to engage on social media with negative information. You can't really win. Just post positive stuff. Don't retweet it. Don't relift it. It's a no-win situation. If you want specific guidelines, ADL has resources on how to engage on social media. But from what we have seen, it's just, there's no winning. There are trolls. Sometimes you're talking with a troll. You don't even know who you're fighting with on the internet. Be really careful. Be really careful. And that sort of self-fulfilling circle that once you start searching or you start speaking in one place, it's going to keep coming back to you. You get trapped in that information, sort of that confirmation bias loop. You don't want to be there. So just be really careful, have really good social media hygiene is what we say. Be careful.
We have time for just a few more questions. Thank you, Rabbi.
So, Stacey, you said that once the ADL is investigating something, they're not going to share all information about it. And how is the ADL encouraging schools to be more transparent with parents so they understand what is happening in the schools, or are they?
We can encourage schools to be more transparent with parents. We can encourage schools to take advantage of the resources that we have to demonstrate to the community that they are engaged in the process of making sure all children are safe in their schools and it's a safe learning environment. But it is not for us to tell schools how to communicate with parents. We can give them guidelines, but we don't, some school systems engage more and some engage less, but we provide the resources and we really try to encourage them to do the trainings that we provide, and we have a whole rubric that they can follow with examples of ways to communicate. So we hope that they do that.
Our last question is, should parents encourage seniors in high school to avoid certain colleges?
You know what? It's such a great question. I was hoping someone was going to ask this question because, Michael, you want to answer first, or you want?
There's no rating system or seal of approval.
Yeah.
I'll ask this question. Is Penn a better school because they fired their president? And is Harvard worse off because they kept their president? Well, okay, you could say yes. I don't know that the day-to-day experience of students there changes much, whether McGill is still in office or Gay is still in office right now, like in the last couple of weeks. Has it changed much? So some people might say yes, fine, great. You can send your child to Penn, not Harvard, okay? I don't know that yet it makes so much difference for me.
Yeah. I'll just add a couple of things. Many of the students that we talk to are perfectly happy at the schools that we're hearing the worst stories about. They are going to classes, they're going to fraternity parties, they're hanging out with their friends, they're perfectly happy. Some of this is more important to us as adults, and a lot of the kids are just content. That's one thing. The second thing is many college campuses have vibrant, healthy Jewish life, separate and apart from what's going on in the news now. So look at Columbia. A lot of protests sound scary, but Columbia has one of the most vibrant Jewish lives for Jewish students. So don't just look at one thing here. There's a full picture. The other thing is, remember, we're preparing young people to be in the real world. So it's okay to face some adversity. As long as they're armed and equipped and they feel safe, it's okay to have to learn how to navigate challenges, because that's what you're going to have. The people that you're going to college with, or the people that are in another college, are going to be sitting next to you in a cubicle at work. So it doesn't end in 4 years. This is a lifetime.
And I think that what you said, Stacey, is so important. I will also tell you, I hear from a lot of our college students, the majority of them are enjoying their college experience, are proud to be Jewish, are engaged in Jewish life. Some of them have experienced anti-Semitic incidents, anti-Israel incidents, et cetera, Some of them have, but I want us to distinguish between the day-to-day life for college students on campus and the news events that we hear.
Exactly.
Yep.
And one other thing I would say is, parents, force your kids, when you move them in, to go to Hillel. Introduce them to Hillel or the Jewish, whatever the Jewish life is on campus. Make sure they are affiliated in some way. Make sure you have the contact information for that person as a parent. There are resources on almost every college campus for Jewish life to support Jewish students.
I would also say encourage them to contact their clergy
Yeah,
at home, because we can also help when that happens.
absolutely.
All right. First of all, most importantly, thank you so much to Stacey and to Jennifer as well from ADL. Once again, thanks to our Temple Israel staff, including Rabbi Nemitov Bressler and Brian Bierman and Sean and Eric and Tim and our security team. Kate is here too. There in the back. Excellent. And thank you everybody for being here in person and online. We will continue to speak about how our community can stand up to anti-Semitism here and everywhere. Everyone have a good evening.
And thank you, Rabbi Michael Friedman. We are very, very lucky to have an inspirational leader. Hey, Cliffy.
Stacey, my
Yes.
name is